Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Sometimes I say I'm going to do something and I change my mind and don't do it. And people wonder, what happened to that so-and-so you said you were going to do? And other times I'm undecided and then I make a snap decision. And this is somewhere in between the two. I want this Cattleya off this mount. Because a lot of the older parts of the plant are destined to be cut off. This is effectively a tiny little plant here that I'm going to throw away. That's useless. And then I've got a reasonable plant here with new growths and new roots. I've got a larger plant here, and a lot of the older part of that plant was infected. And although it's been treated and it now seems to be growing okay, I still don't know whether it's, partially infected. So I'll take that on board as we go along. But I think by rejuvenating the front end of this plant, or plants, because there'll be two, there might even be three, because the older part might actually get split. So that I've got the two leads, because it's going off in different directions at the moment. And then those hopefully healthy parts at the front of the plant can be potted up, holy clay pot if I can get it. I've only got a small one, I'm going to have to squeeze it in there, but so be it. It can hang over the side and grow down the pot, I don't mind. I think it's going to be happier. Now, to try and not lose all the roots, because some of them are well attached, I've had this in soak. Now that was problem number one. Put some water in the sink, warmish water so that it didn't chill the thing, and put it in there. And it's cork bark, so it promptly floated. None of the roots were in the water, so I had to weigh it down under the water. And it's been in there about an hour soaking. And the first thing I noticed was that the water was quite discoloured. It had a staining in it. Now therein may lie some of the problem. It could be, I haven't known it before, this is a very old piece of bark. It could be that the cork bark is actually starting to break down. I haven't known that happen before. It's pretty resilient, cork bark. It just stays as it is. Because it doesn't get wet, it doesn't really rot. But it can get old and tired and start getting crumbly, which may be what's, it comes apart pretty easy. So that may be part of the problem. But it's not growing as well as it could. It's as simple as that. So stuff, I've got a pair of scissors for cutting the ties off and getting that bit off. I've got my hydrogen peroxide, that's the hydrogen peroxide 3%. If you ever have any of that stuff, keep it dark. It goes off if the light gets to it and doesn't work basically, so that it lives in a black bottle, and I keep it in this dark bottle with a sprayer on the top. So that's to clean the plant up once I've taken off what I don't want. Because this plant was known to be infected in its previous life quite a while ago, but it's had the treatments, hopefully it's worked. My scissors are in 70% rubbing alcohol so that they are sterile, and I will try and remember to re-sterilise those scissors every time I cut something on the plant, because if there is a part of the older plant that's still got some active infection in it and I use those scissors and then cut a good bit of the plant, I could cross-contaminate, so we don't want any of that nonsense. Okay, now this is going to get a lot of water all over the place. It's an SC, so that's a Sophro Cattleya. You have to bear in mind that virtually all, I can't say emphatically all, but an awful lot of the Sophronitis have been reclassified as Cattleya. And if the one that was used in the parenthood of this one has been reallocated to Cattleya, then it's a Cattleya, which makes a nonsense of the whole renaming game. And then you do have to bear in mind there's quite a lot of Cattleyas that have been reclassified and given their own classification. So the Cattleya that was used in this might not be a Cattleya. So it could be a C something else. But effectively the bit that hasn't changed, it's Rose Pixie Pinafore, and in its day it was an awarded plant and got an HCC from the American Orchid Society. So once upon a time this plant was pretty special to get that award, and I'd like to see it special again, quite honestly. The blooms are nice, I like them a lot, and I'd like to see some. So that's got all the ties cut, so there's nothing hanging on around the back now. Let's make sure I've got them all. Yeah. Okay, so all the ties are off. Whoops. Now we can get around the front. And the first thing I can do is take that piece off because I know I don't want it. It's not worth attempting to try and recover that piece. And boy, have those roots got a hold. So it did push out some nice roots. But the new growth it pushed out was no good. You know, that is not a good piece of plant. It is not worth putting any effort into that, quite honestly. If it was the only piece I had, I'd still probably chuck it. So rubbish can go in the sink for now. There's going to be some. Just trying to pull as many ties out of the way as possible so that I'm not trying to mess with those. They can all go in the sink as well. They won't go down the sink, obviously. I'll pick them up, put them in the bin carefully. Right, now let's see how easy this is going to be to get off. And it isn't going to be easy, I know that straight away. See, this piece is lifting. The older part of the plant has no roots, so it's not attached. So that bit's coming off okay. Where are we now? God knows where that root goes. Oh, it actually goes into moss, that's okay then. There are some very long roots at the top here, which may tear. And if they do, tough. I can only do what I can do. So I've got one hanging on there somewhere. It's that one. Ah, it's actually being held on by a root from the other piece. And that root goes in under there somewhere. That went right to the other side of the mount, that root. And this one is the, well, they've already split, so there's no point in keeping the split parts. Whoops, wrong scissors. So I will trim those so that it lets go. Right, so it's that piece, it's off. That's all I'm interested in doing at the moment, is getting it off. Cleaning it up and cutting off any old pieces or anything I'll do once I've got the pieces off. Now I know this one's going to be a nuisance. I can see how well these roots are attached. But giving them a soak has helped at least part of the root to come undone. And even though some of them... So that root there is actually a piece off of that plant. It's nothing to do with this bit I've got in my hand at the moment. Oh, come on, gently, gently. I think that's gone right in and out the back. Right, it's off. And I have viable roots left on here that are not torn. I've worked with a lot less than that and recovered it. I'm quite pleased. Dead one there, one, and a few at the back of the plant. That's not that bad a little plant. I will take one bulb off of there, at the back here. There's a very obvious reason why I want to do that. Let's do it now. Basically because I want to see what's in the rhizome. Simple. There's no active roots I'm cutting off, that's good. Let's see what we got. That's clean. Bonus. Right, so that little piece is a nice happy little piece of Cattleya with some viable roots and nothing in the rhizome that I need to worry about. That's a real bonus, that is. I'm happy with that. That should grow on nicely now. So that's piece number one. Let's get the big piece out and see what we're going to do with this bit. Right, first of all, where are the leaves? Well, that was easy. That saved me making a decision. Let's get them back in there. I can see me picking those up and reusing them in between here. But it is important, you know, cross-contamination tends to be human. rather than the plants and watering and medias and all that sort of stuff. Cross-contamination 9 times out of 10 is our own flipping fault, and it's carelessness with cutting tools. It really is. Right, just trying to find what's going to look like quite a nice plant. There's the main lead on this piece here. That's that nice new growth there. That was the previous new growth, which it decided was a bifoliate growth rather than none of the others. They do that. Panic not. I've got some dead roots in places, and I've got some nice roots. Most of the nice roots are emanating from this part of the plant. There's nothing up the back end here. All of these bulbs would have been destined to have been cut off at some point. I don't even think I'm going to need to cut it. I think it's the rhizome's just rotted in that area. Right, I just want to cut that rhizome clean so that I can have a good look at it rather than the torn piece that I had then. I can get that about there, I think, just behind those 2 back bulbs. Both of those back bulbs have got good leaves on. That's good. There's a little bit of, I won't call it rot, but a little bit of brownish stain in one place on that rhizome. That's just a very old part of the plant. That is nothing more than that. It's not anything nasty. Right, so that's that bit. Back in your pot. Right, and then we've got this piece. What have we got here? I have new growth going in that direction. That is a new growth. It's got some damage on the leaf. That was me whacking it around. Nothing other than that. That rhizome goes back to there. I really don't know how much of this to keep. But I'm starting the plant again. It's going in a small holy clay pot. So there isn't a lot of room in that pot to keep a huge amount of this plant. So I think I'm going to be a little bit drastic on this piece and take it back to there. Cut number 1. Rhizome looks good there too. See? You can get rid of the dreaded F stuff. Whoops! That bit didn't want to stay. Well, if it didn't want to stay, it didn't want to stay. That leaves me a piece like that. The obvious place for new growths on this piece, look at that. That is not a ridiculously old growth. But look at the state of it. That's bugs. Bugs followed by infection. Yeah, nothing more, nothing less. I had a bit of scale on this one. I think that's probably what did it. And that one may still have some scale in it. I don't know whether you can see that. It's a flipping lens. You look down in that sheath, there's something in there, so you'll need a good clean up before it goes back on. Get rid of the sheaths, check everything out, make sure there's nothing lurking that can get going again. So it's not a brilliant piece, but it's got roots, some of which are sticking up in the air. I should be able to see that one's actually broken. There's no point in leaving that, is there? It'll only die off. Right. These will go down in the pot. They may or may not branch out, shoot. They may die off. But it has got a new lead on it. That's going to be a nuisance piece. I may decide not to use that, or to really dramatically take it. If you look at it, it's going in 3 directions flat. Well, that's the latest growth, not that it's a brilliant one, and that ought to be upright so that any subsequent growths have got the ability. But to get that one upright, that one's upside down, and that one is just about hanging on. I don't see any new roots coming out of that new growth yet, but if there aren't any yet, there might be soon. So I'm going to keep that new growth. And I think I'll keep that tiny little one with it, and this will be the one coming up the rear, as they say. You know, in other words, the one that's going to have to come on from behind, and it'll either get going or it won't. But there's no point in keeping all 3 bulbs. They're all going in silly directions. going to take that one back to there. Now I've got an upright new growth with a little bit that I can position that so that that hangs out the pot, out the side of the pot, or sticks up against the pot, and then that one's nearer the middle of the pot. So that's my rubbish. I'll have a clear up. I'm obviously not reusing the mount, and I might actually throw that away. That is pretty crumbly. You know, cork bark, I presume, doesn't last forever, even though I might have thought it did. It's pretty manky, and the amount of stain that was in that sink was a trifle worrying, so I might actually dump that. Had its day, shall we say. It's quite easy to get hold of more cork, it's not difficult. Some places it's not cheap, but it's not difficult. Right, I shall have a clean up, and I'll be back and sort out what we got left, nice and clean, ready to pot up. Okay, cleaned up, very few roots taken off. There were a couple that were just soggy, you know, melt in your hand type of thing. There's no point in leaving those on, but these browny ones are relatively firm and they can branch. I'm reluctant to take too many Cattleya type roots off unless they are obviously soggy. I missed one there. It's already broken. Yeah, there's a couple there that need a little trim. Let's take that one off. Come on, separate. See, that one's dead farther back than that, and so is that one. That one can come right off, back to the base, as can that one. Not enough there to worth keeping, and quite honestly there's enough roots on this. As I say, I've rescued a lot with a lot less roots than that, and they've come on eventually. All you're doing is the time. Now, one thing I do want to do before I bury those in the media is get a bit of cinnamon on the ends of the where the cuts are. Just dries them off basically. Stops any nasties getting in there and getting hold of the rhizome. I've already had one nasty in there, don't want any more. That'll just dry those off. If you do use cinnamon on your plants, don't get it on your roots because it will dry those off as well. Literally, it will like eat into them, dry them right out. So watch your cinnamon. Ooh, apple pie. I must admit, I love the smell of cinnamon. I don't use it in any cooking. The only thing it ever gets used for is orchids. Right, this is a tiny pot in comparison to what's got to go in it, but what's got to go in it is got to go in it, because it's the only holy clay pot I've got left. So I don't need much in the bottom. What I do need is these plants bursting out the top so that I can wire them and hold them firm. How many deep rooted bits have I got? That one. Put a bit more in. Oops. Now the idea is to try and place these so that the new growths are not pointing directly or right up against the edge of the pot, because then any subsequent growths that come off of those pieces won't have anywhere to go. Now, I don't mind a few roots staying aerial, that doesn't worry me. I want the majority in the pot. It doesn't have to be every single piece. This bit's going to be a nuisance. It's got nuisance written all over it, I can tell. Now these roots, because they've been soaked, are quite bendy. There might be the odd click where one actually snaps, but as long as that tiny little filament is intact, the root is highly liable to branch. So just because it cracks, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that one in the pot somehow. This is going to be difficult. Yeah, there's going to be some aerial roots. Tough. There'll have to be some, won't there? It's probably going to grow some like that anyway, so just managed to tuck that big long one right round the edge of the pot. Right, so that's about where I want the plant to be. Something like that. Oh, this little piece is just going to be a nuisance. You know, I think I might actually pot that separate. It's just going to get in the way in this pot. Right. There's going to be air gaps in this, that's for sure. But so be it. It's a Cattleya. It doesn't matter. I've always said if you watch a Cattleya grow, you know, where it's got an airy media, it seems to head for the gaps. You know, not for where it's all packed in tight. And it's the wires that are going to hold this firm, not the media. So all I need to do is get enough media in enough places so that when I pull on the wires, it goes down hard. It doesn't wiggle around too much. I'm trying to get it in as many of the gaps as I can, but I won't get them all. You know, I've got one root trying to get out already, look. See? Looking for the air gaps and we haven't even watered it yet. Trying not to poke my eye out with these wires waggling around here as well. Right, there's one bit where I know I've got quite big gaps. I need to get in under there with something. Otherwise I won't have anything to pull against, will I? I'll just pull the pot, pull the plant lower down in the pot. There as well. Get some down in that bit. Always have an option. If you think you've got a little bit too much bark when you pot the Cattleya type, you can wait for a bit until the roots get a hold and you can see that the roots are getting going, and then you can take some off if you think you've got a bit too much. It doesn't have to stay there just because it was put there on day one, you know. 3 months down the line I could pull a few pieces out of the way if I chose to do so. Right, I think that's going to be about it. Now I've got a serious problem now because I've only got one place this wire can go, and because I've only got 3 holes and 2 of them have already got wire in. So this one, this piece, is going to have to hold that plant, probably just that plant, and that one can go through the hole if I can get it through. And funny, the larger holy clay pots are just so good to work with because the holes they've got drilled in the rim are big enough to work, whereas on these smaller pots they're just so tight that even a narrow piece of wire doesn't want to go through. Slightest little kink in the wire gets hung up in the pot. Right. Now, let's see what we've got. How tight can I go? I want to garrot the plant and cut it. It is wire after all, but I want it tight. That one. I'm going to try and do the similar thing with this one. And this one's not going to be so easy because this wire is going to have to join against the other wire. I've got no hole to push it through. It's just not going to work. I can't get 2 wires through that tiny little hole, and I can't be bothered getting drills and things out, so I'm just going to have to attach it to the other wire and hope I've got something to pull against. I'll just thread that through there gently, get that onto that piece of rhizome, and then what I need to do now is cut that bit of wire a bit shorter so that I'm not working with an 8-foot length out there, and then hook it underneath the wire that I've already pulled tight, and then pull it up, and it'll grab hold of the wire that's already tight because I've got no hole to poke it through. That should do the job. Yep. I love it when a plan comes together. Then I'll just have to make a loop in that with the pliers, pull it nice and tight. But that's got the two pieces reasonably tight, despite adverse conditions called small holy clay pots. Maybe I just didn't drill the holes out good enough. Probably some sort of moulding actually, and they weren't drilled at all. Right, tuck that one over the top, back down into the media, and just wrap the other one round there. That's got it. I'm happy with that. It's grabbed hold quite nicely. Right, now where have we got? We can get some more up round here. So the fact that this time of the year these pots don't get dunked, they don't get soaked, they get water poured on them, so I can actually stack the bark up a little bit higher than I would normally until these roots start branching out and getting going. That's not bad. I haven't buried the rhizome anywhere. Hopefully I've buried sufficient roots for that to take off. And the new growths are here and here, yeah, so they're both pointing towards the centre of the pot, so it's got room to grow. And if it shoots out farther back down the rhizome, that's a bonus, but the idea is that these two new growths have got this open space to work with, so as they shoot out, as and when, if and when, I suppose I should say, hopefully that will work. I've got enough roots in the media, so the fact that the roots are soaking wet now, that won't get watered for a couple of days, but once I start watering it, it'll have to be relatively frequent because the bark's new and it takes quite a while to actually get it going and get it to absorb. It just stays rock hard and the water just runs off it for a while, and then gradually the coating on it starts to give and it starts to absorb a bit. Is it worth sticking that in a little pot and see what it does? I suppose so. I mean, if it grows, it was an awarded plant once, I can just stick that in a little plastic pot and see if it will grow. Yeah, we'll do that separately. Okay, so that's that one. I'm going to reuse the tag I've already got, but that tag will get replaced when I get round to starting to write the white ones out that Rose gave me. I'm not liable to forget what it is, but nonetheless, it's got a perfectly good tag, we'll use it. So that's gone from a huge big scruffy mount with lots of manky bulbs and scruffy leaves, some leaves dying, to something that looks like not a bad Cattleya. That's what I wanted. I want something that I'm pleased to look at. And now, if we can get some new roots going, and some branches on the existing roots, and some more new growths, we'll have a nice plant. Yeah? That's what I was after. I was getting fed up with the sight of that scruffy mount and all its dead bits and manky bits. So hopefully tearing it off that mount hasn't done too much damage and there's sufficient roots on there to just branch. And we'll see how we go. Only time will tell. Thanks for dropping by. It's quite a big job, that one, but yeah, quite pleased, not too bad. We'll see how that one progresses. Updates will follow in due course, as they say. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time.